Hey guys, so in this video we are going to look how we can set up Hyperledger Explorer with Hyperledger Fabric. So this video is continuation of part 1 where we looked how we can set up a Hyperledger Fabric network, how we can install Chaincode, instantiate it and make some queries and invoke some transactions. So Hyperledger Explorer is a project under Hyperledger umbrella where you can visualize the state of the blockchain network, how many blocks are there, how many transactions are there, who are the participant of the network, what are the channels and what are the chain codes that are the part of the channels. So let's get started. So this is the official repository of Hyperledger Explorer, and we will be using most of the code provided by the Hyperledger Explorer team to set out Hyperledger Explorer with our Fabric network. And this is the repository where you can clone this repository, and I have added some code into this repository, and this is the same repository that we used in the last lecture. So I have created one folder with name Explorer, and there I have kept 3 files, and we will be going to look into these files to set out our Explorer network. So let's jump into our terminal, and you can find the source code link to this repository in the description. Now we are inside our terminal window, so let's do ls command. Now we can see all of our code here. So let me just so right now I'm in the test network folder, and first of all, to set up the network we have to run the script. This will be setting up 2 peers for 2 organizations and 1 orderer. So let's just set up network up, create channel, and we will be passing -c flag, and we will be naming our channel as my channel, and I use -i flag just to make sure that we are using the correct version of the Docker images. So let's hit enter. So we have seen all these steps in the previous video. Now peers are joining the channel. Also, you can find the written tutorial link in the description, so you can go and check that out also. Now our channel has been successfully joined by the peers. Now we can set up Hyperledger Explorer. So let's move out of this directory and let's look for the Explorer directory. Now let's move inside the Explorer directory, and here we have 3 files: config.json, docker-compose.yaml, and firstnetwork.json. So let's take a look inside these files before jumping into the implementation part. So this is the folder, and over there we have 3 files. So let's just start from the docker compose. So this is the docker compose file, and here we are doing some stuff related to networking, where we are just adding this the containers that will be up by this YAML file in this test network, and these are the services that this docker compose.yaml will spin up. So the first one is the Explorer DB, and this is basically a Postgres database that Hyperledger Explorer internally uses to store the transactions, block count, blocks details, transaction details, network details. All of these are being stored into the Explorer DB, and this is the main component, Explorer. So basically this container will be doing a lot of stuff, like more like this is the control point of this application, this Explorer application, and basically this is a Node.js application which is built over Express.js and WebSockets, and this is listings for the events that are being emitted by the Fabric network, and just writing them out into the Postgres database. So this is the important stuff. So this file has been taken from the official repository of the Explorer, and we can look into that also. So this is the official repository, and over there we can see the docker compose.yaml, and I have taken this same file from here only, but I have I added made few changes to the code to meet it our requirements. So basically the changes that I have done are related to the volumes. So I have mounted our config.json file at this location, and then I have passed our network configuration. Then this is the path for the crypto materials, basically the certificates that will be consumed by this application, and this is for the wallets too. So nothing else have been made changes to this repository except these 4 lines. So let's look into the config.json. So basically this this file defines the network configuration, and we can add multiple network configuration here. So right now I have defined only one configuration since we have only one network, but you can monitor n number of networks through this Explorer. So over there we are also defining the profile, the path for the connection profile, that is in the correct directory with name first network.json. So here it is our first network.json, and there we are defining the name, the version, and this is the important part, the client section, where we are defining the network is TLS enabled, and these are the admin credentials that we will use to log in into the dashboard. The ID is Explorer admin, and the password is Explorer admin PW. And this flag enable authentication, we will look into this in the implementation part when we will be setting up this network. Basically this flag will help us to enable or disable the authentication in the dashboard, and this is some stuff related to the connection timeout, that for how long the connection should be. This is the timeout for if the peer doesn't respond, or if the order doesn't respond within this time frame, then it will be marked as timeout. And this is the channel configuration. So right now we have defined only one channel over there, but you can define n number of channels according to your need. And these are the peer details that from this peer this Explorer will be pulling the network, pulling the transaction details. And here we are defining the certificates, the admin the private key for the admin, and this, and we make sure to check the path of this private key when you are setting up the network. So since we have mounted our organization folder, that is where we have our crypto materials, this one with the temp folder in the Docker container, so we can see that we have to match this path, that this file, this private underscore key, should be there inside the organization folder. And if the application won't be finding these certificates and these private key, then it will be giving us the error that the file not exists, something like that. So let's verify this file. So inside the peer organization folder we have R1 example. So inside peer organization we will be looking at r1.example.com, and inside there we have one folder that is users, and inside the users we have to look for this folder admin@org1.example.com. so this is the folder, and inside that we will be looking at MSP folder. Now we have to look for the key store, and here we have our file private underscore key. Similarly we have to verify, you should be you should take care of these things, that the file must exist at the required location. So we can look this file also, that it is present at MSP sign sets. So it is at users or1 users admin, and inside the admin we have MSP, then inside the MSP we have signed certs, and here is our file. Similarly, here we are defining the peer configuration, that where the peer TLS certificates are there, and here we are defining the the gRPC URL of the peer node. So now it's time to jump into our terminal and run the commands to deploy this Explorer. Now we are inside our terminal. So what we have to do is we have to spin up the Docker compose file. So let's do this: Docker compose up -d. And it is creating both Explorer DB and the Explorer application. Yeah, so both the containers have been created. Now we can look at the logs of Explorer application, this one. So let's copy this and look at the logs. Docker logs. Yeah, so we can see that it is now pulling up the information from the order, from the peer, this peer, and it is pulling up we can see that the chain code is there, the ledger height is there, the endpoint is this. So once this is started, now we can look for the dashboard in the browser. So let's move out to the browser. So for this we have to navigate to localhost 8080, and we can see that we are getting this login page. So the credentials are in our first network.json file. So let's head to our VS Code. So now we are into our VS Code, and we can find the username and password here. So this is our username. Let's copy this. Now let's move back to our browser. This is the username and this is the password. So here we are into our Explorer dashboard, and over there we can see number of blocks into the network, the total number of transactions, the nodes in the chain code, and here we can find the peer names, that who are the participant of this network. We can also look for the blocks per hour, that how many blocks were discovered in an hour. This is for the blocks per minute, and this is for the transaction per hour, and this is transaction per minute. Over here we can see a timeline where we can see the latest blocks that have been discovered to the network, and over clicking on this small icon we can see the block details, like the channel name, the block number, the timestamp at which the block was created, total number of transactions that this block is holding, the block hash, the data hash, and the pre-hash. Pre-hash is the hash of previous block, and this is the pie chart where we can see that the transactions that are invoked by the particular organizations. Over there, moving to the next tab, in the network tab, we can see the list of network participants. So these are our peer nodes in the order nodes, and we can see the respective URL, the type of the node, that whether it is a peer node or order, and their corresponding MSP IDs. Coming back to the block tab, so this is the block tab, and here we can see the list of the blocks. Here we can do some kind of filtering, time-based filtering, or if you want to do based on the organization, here we can do based on the block number. So filtering is there, and now if I click on this block hash, I can see the block details, and I can also see the size of the block. Now coming back to the transaction tab, so in the transaction tab we can see who was the creator of the transaction, the channel name, transaction ID, the type, the chain code, and the timestamp. So all these three transactions that happen are config transactions. That's why we don't have the transaction ID. But if we will make some transaction using the CLI, so definitely we can see some transaction IDs and transactions going over here. And this is the chain code part. So since we haven't deployed any kind of chain code, so that's why we are getting no chain codes here. And this is the channel. So right now we have only one channel, so that's why it is showing us only single channel. But if we will have multiple channels, then we can see the list of all the channels that the network has. And over there I have a drop down for choosing this channel. So basically right now we have since one channel, so we can see data corresponding to that channel only. But if we will be having more than one channel, then we can see the data corresponding to the particular channel. And this is basically a notification that if any transaction or any event happens into the network, then we can see the notifications here. This is just a dark theme light theme switch. So now let's do one thing. Let's deploy a chain code, and let's see what is happening with the Explorer. Now let's jump into our terminal, and we will be deploying the chain code, and after that we will be coming back to this Explorer, and we will be looking at what is the state of the Explorer. So this is our terminal where our logs are going on. So let's close this out, and now we will be moving on step back to the test network, and there we will be deploying the chain code. So /network.sh deploy cc-ccn, which is the name of the chain code. So our name of the chain code is basic, and -ccv, which is the version number. So let's deploy this chain code. So our chain code is packaging. So all this stuff has we already looked into our previous video, where I showed you how you can what are the steps while deploying a chain code, the approval process, the commit, and then after then we can invoke or query. So right now our chain code has been deployed, and now we can head back to our browser, and we can see that what is happening at the Explorer level. So let's jump into that, and there we can see a notification with 3 notifications, and that says that new blocks has been added. So let's jump into our dashboard, and let's check out the blocks and the transaction. So we can see that now we have 6 blocks, and previously they were 3. We have some more transactions. Now the transaction count is 6, previously it was 3, and we can see the chain code that it is right now it is 1 chain code. So it means that our chain code has been successfully installed, and our Explorer has detected that also. So coming back to this blocks tab, now we can see that that the transaction that took over this chain code, and here we can see the block details. Here we can see the transaction details. This was an endorsement transaction and it was done on the lifecycle chain code. That is the system chain code, and we can see all the status, like it was valid and who was the creator. And then if I look into the transaction tab, then here I can see that these were the endorsement transactions, and previously the previous transactions were the config transactions, because at the time we were doing stuff related to the configuration like network creation, channel joining, all this stuff. But now these are the endorsement transactions, and they are done over the lifecycle chain code. And this is the chain code. Now we can see that we have one chain code name basic, and that is deployed over channel name my channel, and the transaction count we can also see, in the version that we define, and rest of the things are same. So now what we can do is we will be creating a CLI container, and after that we will be try to invoke some transactions, and once those transactions are invoked, we will be looking at the data that was being passed to those for the transaction, and we will also looking at these block values and the transaction values. So for this we have to jump into our terminal. So let's switch to our terminal. Here it is. So now let's do one thing. Let's create a spin up the CLI container. So docker compose, and we have to define the file that is inside docker compose CLI up -d. Now our CLI container is creating, and now we can get inside the CLI container, and here we can look at the channels, peer channel list, and we can see that this peer has joined to this channel. And after this, now what we are going to do, we will be doing some transactions. We are going to create some transactions and querying those, and then we will be looking back to the Explorer. So let's do one thing. Let's do the transactions. So this is our invoke command. Now let's hit enter. So we can see we got a successful response with status code 200, and now we will be looking back to our browser and seeing what's the status here. So now we can see that we have 7 blocks and 7 transactions, and when we look at the blocks, so here we can see the block number is 6, since the transactions count start with 0. So we have the current transaction that is marked with block number 6, and over there we can see the transaction hash, and we can look out the data inside this transaction hash. So since it was a we can see the read write set, and if we look at the write set, so if I move back down, so we can see the chain code was basic, over which the transaction was made, and this was the key 100, and this was the data that was being passed in this transaction. And the first one, the 0th one, is for the lifecycle chain code, and the second one is for the basic chain code. The same thing we can see in the transactions tab. Now let's do one thing. So basically this Hyperledger Fabric, this Hyperledger Explorer provides you a GUI plus some sort of database, that is Postgres, and the backend, which is our Node.js and Express.js. And you can also build, if you find that this UI is not meeting your requirements, so you can also build your own UI based on the REST API exposed by this Hyperledger Explorer. So we can see those API through the through the Swagger file that is being provided by the Explorer team also. So let's look at this, and we will be doing some transactions using the Postman, and the same thing you can integrate. You can build your custom UI based on any framework, whether it is React or Angular or Vue. You can use your own framework and create your own beautiful UIs based on the REST API. So let's jump to this Explorer repository here, and let's move to the home page. So inside the app folder, you can see that the Explorer team has provided us a Swagger file, Swagger JSON, and basically you can import this file into a Postman and make some transactions with this. So let me just copy the URL, and let me just bring up my Postman. Here it is, and now I will be importing this collection into the Postman. So click on this import, and now click on this link tab, and over there paste the URL that we just copied, and now click on the continue, import, close. Now it has imported successfully, and we can see that there are 23 HTTP requests inside this collection. So first we will be looking at the auth. Basically this is the same thing that we just did in the starting, where we just did the login authentication process. So you can change the environment variables from here. Click on this 3 dots, and over there you can see edit, and over there you can see the variable section, and you can pass your you can change the variables according to your need. So now just let's move to the body part. Now here we can see that this is the payload that we need to pass in order to be authenticated. So for the user, we can use the username credential that we passed into the first network.json file. So our network was first network. The name of the network is first network, first network, and the username password was Explorer. Explorer admin. I think this is the password, Explorer admin. Let me confirm the username and password. Okay, so the A is in small letters, admin. Now let's hit the send request. Okay, so now you can see that we have successfully authenticated, and we got the token, the JWT token, and we can use this token in all of our future requests. So let me show you one more thing. I'm just copying the token, and now in the API folder we can see, if I go to channels folder, and there is one request which says query to fetch the channel. So if I click on this, and if I click on the authorization, and there I have to paste the token. So let me paste the token. Now we have pasted the token. Now let's click on the send, and here I can see the list of channels which we have currently in our network. So we have right now only one channel, which is my channel, and similarly in this way you can get the details of every detail related to the network. So let's look this example which says query to fetch the channel info, and this is the endpoint, and in the authorization part I have to again pass the token. So this is the token. Now if I click on send, I will be getting the detail related to the channel. So this is the detail related to the my channel. Let me just bring this up. So this is the channel name, this is the block number, this is the channel genesis hash. So in most of the API calls you will be requiring this channel hash, channel genesis hash, the transactions this channels have, the created at, and the channel hash. So these are all the details. Now let me show you one more thing, which is when we disable the enable authentication flag into our first network.json file, and then we don't require the login, and we can just simply we can directly start the Explorer without any authentication. So let's jump into our terminal, and first we will be shutting down those Explorer container, and then we will be applying the latest configuration update. So let's head to our terminal. So now we are into our terminal, and let me just exit out of this, and let's just move to that Explorer directory. Here we are, and now let's just shut down those containers. Docker compose down. This will down only those two containers. And now once these containers are down, we will be making that enable authentication flag to false to see that we don't actually require that authentication. So let me just bring up my VS Code. So here we are into our VS Code. Now we have to change this flag from true to false. And now let's just save this. Now after saving, let's spin up the network again. It's this Explorer again. So this is the terminal. Now I will be spinning up this Docker containers. Docker compose up -b. This, and this time you will see that it actually does not require us to log in. So the containers are creating right now. The Postgres container is creating, and you can find the link of the repository in the description. So now our Explorer containers are up. So let's go to the dashboard. So here is our dashboard, and let me just log out. So I'm logged out, but still you can see that I was inside the dashboard. So this marks that we don't need any kind of authentication to make the transactions, to view the transactions from now. So that's all for this video, guys. If you find these videos helpful, please like and subscribe the channel, and I will see you in the next videos.